Can you hear me now? There was a cheeky mute microphone thing that was pressed, but let me know if you can hear me from now. Hopefully you guys on TikTok can hear. It's the YouTube stream. I'll just bear with until hopefully. Yay! Oh, thank you, Lucy and Nana and Holly for being the first to jump in. Okay, we will now start, and hopefully, if I can edit this, then the people that can watch it back don't have to see all that palaver. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get into it. We are looking today at how to ditch debt, and it's an awesome goal to have for 2024. There are so many financial wellness benefits from becoming debt free. One of them is obviously the actual debt moving from your life and not having that pressure. The other is the monetary relevance. So we'll kick into that. But firstly, we're going to look at in this session, what is consumer debt? Because we're talking about consumer debt here. We're not talking about mortgage, but the same principles do apply. We're talking about why it's a good idea to do it. So if you're someone that's on the fence about whether you should or shouldn't ditch debt, this is what we're going to go through. When you should do it, and that's a really important thing because people kind of get overwhelmed by the multiple things that people have to handle, and so looking at when you should do it, and then more importantly the how. So we'll kick off. In the meantime, in the comments, tell us where you are, tell us if there's something in particular you want to learn from this session, because after we have raced through these 4 principles, we're going to do Q&A. So let's jump straight into it. So obviously, if you are a financial app user, a big thing in the app is being able to pay off debt. So whether it's saving for a goal, you can do that in there, but you can also list your debts, and we'll come on to that. But make sure that if you are on a debt-free journey, that you jump in and use the app, especially the free debt tracker, because that's a free tool that you can use to track all this. A debt is a sum of money that's owed or due, and there's lots of different types of debt. So some of them are IOUs to friends, parents. Who else would you owe money to? Like, hopefully not loan sharks or anyone, not regulated and a bit dodgy. But generally, you owe money to. It's people that it's something that you owe money to, and you could owe money to a finance company for a car. So you could have a brand new car on finance. You could have a car loan. So even though it's not a car finance, it's loan connected to the car. It could be store cards. It could be credit cards. There's lots of different types of debt. Debt is maybe an overdraft as well. And so it's anything basically that you owe to someone else. And there's some people think that debt's good, and I think it's very important to share some of these principles because there can be some upsides to debt. So it does help credit scores. Thankfully, the finance industry globally is getting a lot better at linking good behavior to whether you are credit worthy. So not just whether you're really good at paying back credit cards or whether you've had loads of debt in the past and paid it off. Actually looking at financial behavior and looking actually, do you have enough per month to afford this, and are you pretty resilient when it comes to your money, because they're getting better at that, and that's really important. But in the interim, actually debt can be good for credit scores. Some people like to collect points, and if you are very good at it, you definitely can win, whether it's travel hacking or rewards points, especially if you high expenditure. Some people use credit cards with points in a business, and that can be a really good way of building up points. But again, you need to give it a lot of time and a lot of energy, and 95% of people don't nail it. The credit card company ends up winning, and we'll come on to why in a minute. People see 0% as a great idea and think that it's cheap money, and again, it's fine until things go a bit wrong, but that is true. You're kind of borrowing money and you're not having to pay a percent on it, and also you get things more quickly. So if you want it right here, right now, credit can be a way of being able to afford things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. But we want to talk about why it's not so good, and hopefully to reassure you of some of the reasons why you want to pay it down. You spend more. So when you use credit, there was a Harvard Business School study showing that you tend to spend more than you would have done if you'd have used a debit card, and even more, again, you would have spent less if you'd have used cash. So the difference between when you spend with money that's credit versus when you spend when it's real money and it's yours and it's leaving a bank account, we are literally proven to spend more. And so it can be a bad idea to use credit to spend for that reason. We also don't feel it, and this is designed to make you think about friction. So when you pay money with a debit card, even, at least you will see a pop up and it'll be like, oh, Laura has spent £200 in Selfridges. It would tell me, it's kind of, oh, I know that money's left my account, and then my balance goes down. Likewise, if it is cash, you've handed it over, you've had paper wallet, like in your wallet, and it's been sat there, and then you hand it over, and there's friction in that process. Like, it's not easy. When it is like tap and go credit, or whether it's at checkout, it could be buy now, pay later, or whether it's just a credit card, you just don't feel the money leave your account because it's just not real money. It doesn't feel like real money. And so that's the real downside of credit, because it can really trick you into not realizing actually how much you've spent. And just ultimately, and I said this at the beginning, stress, so the stress of owing someone something. Now, lots of us have used debt because we felt we needed to. This wasn't like a spending splurge. This wasn't a treat yourself moment. It was actually out of need. And we're going to come on to kind of what strategies you can put in place to try and overcome that. But often, whether it's that or whether we have just kind of spent and we don't know what we spent it on, and years later we're stuck with credit card debt. It's stressful to owe people something. It's much more free to not have that hanging over our head. And so, and the last point is it steals from our income. So when we quickly look over the financial budgeting method, which is kind of like a profit and loss. So when your income minus your expenses equals your excess, when your expenses involve lots of minimum payments to lots of different credit facilities, it can effectively steals from your income, because you're having to use money that should be for kind of basic needs and treats and future savings and investments. You're having to use it to pay these minimums. And so we say that debt steals from your income because it's a complete waste of a payment. It would be much better if that money goes into your back pocket and goes into something that grows. And so we say, debt isn't evil, but it definitely gets in the way of your goals. It slows you down. In fact, it can stand in the way of many, and it just means you've got a bigger hill to climb. So debt isn't evil. It just gets in the way of your goals. And this is what I meant by the income minus expenses equals your excess. So the way that at Financial we look at doing budgets is not 50-30-20, not necessarily zero-based budgeting. We're a bit similar to zero-based budgeting because you have to allocate every single amount. But we have this thing called an excess, and it's very similar to a profit in a profit and loss account. So you take your income, that's the whole household income that's included in the budget. You minus off your expenses, and these are split into fixed expenses, sinking funds, and flexible expenses. So once they've all gone out the way, you have an excess. Now, some people, when they do this for the first time, they have a negative excess. They actually spend more than comes in, and that's a real light bulb moment to get your money in order and get sorted. And some people have a tiny excess, and so even though it's something, you look down and you go, okay, after I've been paid, is that it? Is that the only thing I have to put towards my goals? And you just think, hell no, like I do not work so hard to literally only come away with that to go towards me and my goals. And that's what can really help with behavior change. That is the thing that will help you decide to make changes when it comes to our habits, decide to tighten up spending, decide to go after more income, because we deserve more, and that excess is our profit. And that's the thing that's going to help our net worth grow and our financial well-being grow. And so that's why excess is really important to think about when you then look at where you want to move forward financially, because the bigger the excess, the quicker you hit your goals. And so if you have a load of debt payments and your fixed expenses wasting space and taking up space, it's going to slow you down when it comes to tackling your goals, your financial goals. But if you can decrease those expenses and therefore increase your excess, you're going to be able to attack them with a vengeance. So debt payments add to your expenses and they reduce your excess. And if you can reduce your debt payments, you increase your excess. So when we talk about ditching debt and that's the practical side of it, but the wider journey in the financial playbook, and my head is in the way of being able to show you properly. I don't think I can move myself here, but it's survive, build, and grow. So the 3 stages of the financial playbook are designed to take you on a journey of 3 stages and mastering 1 stage at a time. And the first stage is survive, and we want to get you to build, and then we want to get you to grow. So when we look at the different elements of survive, build, and grow, in the survival stage, we want to get you out of this stage. You are not meant to be in survive for long. You need to know your numbers, which is creating a really effective budget. Firstly, the first budget is knowing where you're at and kind of a checkpoint. And then when you realize what your excess is, if you work it out, and again, it's in a financial app, you're able to do this. You then go, okay, am I happy with that excess? What do I need to do next? And so when we want you to save a mini emergency fund next, this is again a number that you choose. For some people it's £500, for other people it's $1,000, for other people it's higher. It all depends on what you need to fall back on in a tiny emergency. It's not designed to be comfortable. You need to use your excess to build that mini emergency fund. So the smaller the excess, the longer it takes. So say if you want to save $1,000 and your excess is only $100, that's 10 months. And I don't know about you, but I would not want to spend 10 months saving up a measly $1,000 that I may end up dipping into if it's a mini emergency fund and I'm not great with money initially. But I quite fancy, $350 of an excess. And if you can squeeze your budget and you can increase your income and reduce your expenses, you can throw that in the pot. And so suddenly, within 3 months and a week, you've got $1,000 and you've nailed that first bit, that what we call a money muscle, where you've learned to save up. For lots of us, for the first time ever, especially not for anything in particular, we may have saved for little bits and bobs here and there, but it's the first time that we've really committed to something and been able to say, I did that. So then with that in your back pocket, this is where you should be ditching debt. And you're still in survival mode. It's really like not looking up and looking at a house in the future, and not looking at, dream holidays, and really not looking at any more than basic investing, other than investing through your retirement, through your employer, or doing the minimums that the government recommends, kind of leaving that be and just going all in on this stage, because you're not meant to be here for a long time. And as you can see later, we then are able to build a strong financial platform. We have a large emergency fund to tackle. We can buy homes if we want to buy homes. We can incorporate big life goals into our budget. So whether that's like a lovely travel fund, an amazing clothing fund, a house renovation fund, you can kind of do that when you're building on top of strong financial foundations. And then over to grow. And then it's really exciting, because all the excess on top of your basic investing can be piled into what you find comfortable, what's kind of diversified when it comes to risk, what whether it's in the market, in retirement accounts, or in easy access investment accounts such as ISAs in the UK, whether it's in property because you kind of feel comfortable there and tax-wise you feel it works for you, or whether it's something like angel investing or whatever it is, you can do that in the growth stage, and you will not have to think about owing people money and paying people money. So this is where ditching debt, in terms of the financial playbook, this is where ditching debt kind of lives, and you can see it as in the wider picture of your money journey. Now, we recommend the debt snowball. There's 2 methods, and they both really work. The 2 well-known methods are the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. The reason we like the snowball is because a study showed that you tend to pay off money more quickly when you focus on smaller wins. As humans, we like emotional confidence or support, or we like the dopamine hits of the small wins. And so avalanche is a very effective method if you have debt that has high percentage interest rates, because those can mentally feel overwhelming. But if kind of the pretty average, or it doesn't really bother you, or you don't have one with a stupidly high interest rate that kind of keeps you up at night, the debt snowball really can be one of the best ones to use. And so the way that you do that, and I've got an old shot of the app in here, so apologies, the new one is much more vibey. Is you list them smallest to largest, so you can add them all. And this is a free tool in the financial app. You add them, and you can reorder them and have them in smallest to largest. And so you've got a target to go after and hit. And in your regular budget, you pay minimum payments on all of them. So you make sure that you're current, you don't stop paying any, you crack on as if you were going to do anyway. And then you use your excess in the budget to smash the smallest debt. So like the example we gave before, if you have that, we've got phone finance there, there's £100 to go on that phone finance. And if you have £100 excess, then in 1 month, you've been able to get rid of that debt. And the important thing to think about is, not only has that debt gone, but its minimum payment has as well. So when you then redo your budget for the next month, you can get rid of the phone finance payment because you've paid it all off. You don't owe it anymore. And so suddenly, let's say, for example, that payment was £100. Not only before you had £100 excess, but you had that £100 payment, you now have a £200 excess. So with just paying off one debt so simply, you have been able to double, TikTok have fallen over. Sorry guys, that's me leaning on here. You have been able to double your excess and you've now got 200. So if we think, let's say, similar example, your next debt might be a credit card and say the minimum payment is £100. So you're going to pay that anyway. But you've got £200 excess now. So you're in effect paying £300 off that credit card, not the 100 that you were before, but you've got the 100 plus the 100 from the phone finance, from the 100 plus the 100 that was your original excess, and so on and so forth. And when you clear that credit card, that 100 gets added on. So then you've got a £300 excess. And this is before we've looked at, can you cut subscriptions? Can you meal plan and reduce your food spend? Can you bring in extra money through selling on Vinted or picking up an extra job in a cafe for a summer? Suddenly, by increasing your expenses and increasing your income, and decreasing your expenses, you have this excess that you can throw at the snowball, and you just keep going until you're debt free. And the wonderful thing about that is, when you are debt free, you still have your excess. So then that's when it gets exciting for me. That's when you look around and go, we are out of survive. We're looking at build. Let's build that bigger emergency fund. Let's plan for that house deposit. Let's plan those nice holidays and put them in the budget because there's room. There wasn't room before. And so when people say to me, I don't know how I'm ever going to save for a house. I don't know how I'm ever going to afford nice holidays without paying for them on credit. It is a process and it is not quick. But doing the work here teaches us two things. Like, one, it's that money muscle, which is getting used to rinse and repeat, doing a budget, creating an excess, optimizing it, deciding how hardcore we want to go. Like for example, in December is the worst time to want to go hardcore in a budget because you want to be able to be social, you want to be able to give gifts. So you may not pay a lot from your debts. The excess may be smaller in December. January is another matter. That could be a really good month for a no spend month. I think Financial, we're going to be doing maybe something on no spend in February. Really good opportunities to double down on low expenses, which will create a bigger excess. And so you can kind of choose the pace you want to go at, and you can be as intense as you want. There's no rules here. We've got to be able to live a life. We've got to be able to look after our basic needs. We've got to be able to feel good, because if we go too hard too quick, this is like a fad diet that will just never last. This is about learning about this for the very long term. And it's about getting to a point where you will say, I'm actually never going to be in debt again. I'm actually in control. I feel a lot better not being subject to all these kind of people that I owe money to. I'm in control. And so it's a really great feeling. And the kind of things that the kind of qualities that we see of people in our community who are debt free, they don't care what people think way more than people with debt. They genuinely could not care what someone else thinks of them. And it's a very well placed to be. It really, really is. It's no shade on anyone else, but there's just something about caring a little less when you're not as worried about approvals. And they set goals. And one of the big reasons about setting goals and realistic goals is they know they're achievable because they've achieved something amazing by paying off debt. And so being that person that pays off debt, you're just going to be more ambitious. You're going to move on to the next thing that you want to achieve. You're great at developing strong self-control. You're happy to sacrifice for a bigger goal. Again, this is that kind of the muscle memory that you build by doing that rinse and repeat budget, where you squeeze it, you create an excess, you put it towards something, and then you crack on and enjoy your life and live your life. You're happy to say no, and that's a very, very powerful thing, whether it be for social reasons and you just don't want to go out but you feel like you should, or someone's birthday event or a holiday that you just don't really fancy but you think everyone else says you should go. You're just happy to say no because you've practiced saying no for this goal, which is becoming debt free. But then after you're debt free, you'd still say it, I promise you. You still say that you still say no to people, but with a confidence that's like, I want to do the things that I want to do, and you see the bigger picture. You see the bigger picture when it comes to your money. You understand where you're going, and you understand how all the pieces fit together to get you there. And so I kind of want to close with this, where in the financial community, we have long had a tradition, and we're picking it back up again now, that we have a debt-free wall, which is just a generic saying in the community, where when you hit debt-free, you tell us that you're debt-free, you tell us how much you've paid off, and you share that with the wider community in the app. And people can be inspired, and people want to give you praise, and really get to a point where you are so proud of what you've done that, one, you'll never go back into debt, but two, you're just going to inspire the next person. So make sure that if you want to ditch debt, that you get to a point where you put your name on the financial debt-free wall, and you kick on into build, and then we see you over and grow. So that is a summary of how to ditch debt in 2024. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know if anyone has any questions, or just put an emoji in the chat to tell me that you're still there. But hopefully I've given you some food for thought for if you want to ditch debt, how you could possibly do it. If you've got any friends in your life who probably should be ditching debt, how they could possibly do it. I think that's probably it. There's a little bit of delay, so I'm just going to wait and see if there's any questions. Otherwise, we'll call it a night. Probably on TikTok. I will spin around and have a look at you if I can. Flip camera. Now you see my ugly face. Hello. Wait a bit longer for YouTube. Will do. Thank you so much. And thank you for people that have joined and seeing bits of us talking about ditching debt. I appreciate that you didn't participate in it a lot because I was doing it via YouTube, but hopefully we can do it a bit better in the future with a couple of devices. I will put you here now, and let's see what questions we might get on YouTube. Okay. Oh, I love debt questions. Okay. Nana, any advice for paying debts at the same amount? I have never had that question, but it makes perfect sense. I think there's two things. One, definitely look at interest rates. So for paying debts at the same amount, is the one with a higher interest rate, because obviously that's going to be costing you more. That makes sense to tackle first. If they happen to be the same, then just pick the one that annoys you the most, and at least then. But which one gets on your nerve the most, and do that. So it kind of doesn't really matter. You can choose. Tolu has a great question. Do you have to have a credit card? No, you definitely don't have to have a credit card. As I said early on, there are some benefits to building credit, but there are bigger downfalls than plus points. It's an awful market to be able to get a mortgage. It's an awful market to be able to save for a house. It's very, very hard for anyone like millennial and up, basically, to kind of get ahead at the moment, much to the disagreement of probably a lot of older people that have had it a little bit easier in terms of ratio of income to houses and stuff. So there are a lot of people that do suggest building up credit and using credit cards to do it. Especially in the UK, it's getting better in the US as well. There's getting a lot of other opportunities to build credit without actually using credit. And it could be keeping your addresses up to date, making sure you pay insurance bills and stuff on time. Sometimes you can have rent contribute to your financial history. And there's a lot of work being done to avoid cards. So if you can, try and avoid them. You definitely don't have to have them. If you do want to have one, then having purely for the reason of building credit, that's what you have to kind of have it to one side for, not really for any other reason. Some people think for big expenses, especially in the UK, you can get extra coverage, and you can, but still people use it and then pay it straight off. So I don't have one. We don't have one in our family. Laura Clover, great question. Is it okay to have some debt as a car? It is okay to have any debt, and I think definitely want to reassure you all that this is not an anti-debt campaign when it comes to people's character and whether it's like a reflection on people. But what I say to people with car debt is, what's the plan? So whether it's car finance or a car loan, is the plan to pay it off at some point, or do you want a car finance payment forever? Because I definitely don't want a car finance payment forever. It tends to be a chunky part of people's budget as well. It tends to be, €300-400 or $400-500, because no one gets rubbish cars on finance. Everyone gets nice cars. And so the big problem with car debt is, if there's not a plan to get rid of it, what is the plan? Because what you don't want, and I'm literally speculating on age because I'm kind of talking through what I've been through when I was younger, but when you then think down the line and you think to things like buying a home, renovations, traveling, children, childcare costs, I can't imagine what it's like to have a car finance payment, pay all those, and still want to kind of invest, put extra money into a pension, have nice things. So it's definitely I don't know, like a juggle. And I love the question, and I hope that you take the answer in the right way, because you do have car debt. There's no shade, but I think don't do it. You want to close your credit account once it's paid off, definitely. And I think making sure that, I think you can do like free credit reports and stuff, and follow that around, because you can make sure that you don't have any open accounts that are just not worth having open. That can actually negatively impact your credit score if you've got open accounts that you're not using. And it's open to fraud and stuff as well. If someone gets hold of the account, they can kind of use it and spend on it. So less life admin is better, people. Less life admin is better. Close any credit accounts the minute you've paid them off. And especially if you've got an emergency fund of your choice built up, you can feel confident that you can move forward. Rona, great question. Can you explain the avalanche method, or is it for another session? It's not for another session, so I'll just go through it quickly now. It's so similar to the snowball, and they both genuinely work. And so the avalanche method is where you order debts by highest interest rate to lowest. And so if we took two examples, if you're in the snowball method and you had a debt of £100 and a debt of £1,000, you do the £100 one first. And what what we've seen is people get excited about that £100. They can make probably one quick sale on Vinted and one quick tweak in a budget, and they've paid it off. And the like dopamine hit from doing that is massive, and it's the motivation then that kicks you on to going, right, how am I going to tackle this 1,000? If that £1,000 debt happened to have like a 10% APR and the £100 one had a 2%, you would start the £1,000 one first, because it's costing you more per month. So mathematically, the avalanche method is better. Psychologically, you may give up on that £1,000 because you may see it as that big, that it's taken me that long to pay it off, that I'm just bored and I've got distracted. And I'm absolutely like exaggerating, but that's the thought processes behind the avalanche method, which is if the first debt that's with the highest APR is 10,000, again, that's a huge elephant to kind of eat and to pick off. But if it's £10,000 elephant debt and it's on a high APR, that actually is costing you a lot of money. So by tackling that one first, you can see that you're better off mathematically, and you don't see that huge that APR building up month on month. So there's pluses and minuses to both. Some people, what they tend to do is do the debt snowball, but they do have a look at switching debt to lower interest rates where they can. Not really through consolidation. I hate consolidation loans. They just kind of cause people lots of problems. So unless it's an absolute dire circumstances, it's best to avoid them. They're not an easy fix. But some people might switch some of the debt, if not as much of it as they can, to a lower APR and then kick over to the snowball. So they both work, and people have lots of success with either. Claire, should you pay off debt before you save an emergency fund? I'm trying to do both, plus sinking funds, and it's taking ages. Yes, so you should wait to pay off debt before saving an emergency fund. Sinking funds are a little bit different. So let's work through this. So when you have a debt and you're trying to pay that off, and you're trying to build an emergency fund. And I mean a smallish emergency fund, because what you don't want to do is sit there and try build like 6 months of expenses while debt's hanging around in the background, because that would just feel like it takes forever. So picking the emergency fund figure that you want and then just kind of blinkering in on that is going to give you lots of motivation and excitement and focus, because what we need in this world is focus. There is so much going on. It's easy to get distracted. You know, you walk into the kitchen, you forgot what you've got in for. Like, what's the thing that you're doing right now? I'm saving for my emergency fund of £2,000, whatever it is for you, Claire. And when you go all in on that, you just tend to do it more quickly. Whereas if you try and pay a little bit of debt here and a little bit of emergency fund, all it takes is one emergency and you've not got enough in your emergency fund and you have to go into more debt. And so that's the big thing about the emergency fund. It can help you not add to your debt total. So it's definitely a great idea to build the emergency fund that's right for you. Just don't make it too high initially, so then you can jump over to the debt. Sinking funds, if you're in survival mode, so if you are building your mini emergency fund, or if you're paying off debt, your sinking funds need to be the leanest they are. So there's no point not doing them. If you don't do sinking funds, then for things like car maintenance or house maintenance, when your car needs tyres, not if, when, you're going to have to use debt if you've not got a sinking fund ready for it. So in that circumstance, it makes sense to build the sinking fund at the same time, because this is all about avoiding adding to our debt and being able to then kick on later. But if you are doing a sinking fund for beauty, then it may be worth looking at how high that should be at this survival stage. So again, if even in survival stage, I got my hair dyed and cut, but I tell you what, I didn't go as often. So I would stretch it and try and get that extra month in and have it every other month. And so that's why the sinking fund didn't have to be as aggressive. And I certainly didn't get nails done and makeup done and everything was lean. But I still had one, because at the end of the day, I sat there and thought, I'm having my hair done. I want it done for work. It's a bit of a vanity thing, but it's part of my confidence. It's part of my everyday. Same with like gym and mental health. So people might want to, in survival mode, they've got a gym membership, but they might go, that is worth me going because it keeps me sane and it's not outrageous for my budget, blah, blah, blah. So what you do is, in your sinking funds and in your regular budget, when you're in survival, you sit there and think, what is an appropriate amount for this stage of my money journey, because it's not forever. So same with travel. There's no point not building up a travel sinking fund if you know full well you're going to go travel. But you can have levels to that travel. Same with Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, the sinking fund for Christmas needs not to be a bougie Christmas. It needs to be a survival Christmas, where you just do what you have to do and what you kind of want to do, knowing that next Christmas is another game. So you should be doing your sinking funds as part of your budget, but do them as lean as you possibly can. Do your emergency fund first with your excess, and then after you've got an emergency fund that you're comfortable with, crack on and knock that debt out of the water. You're very welcome, Tolu. And then Laura, thank you. I didn't offend you. I was being very, very careful of what you said. I'm not sure if sorry, I'm going to whiz over to TikTok to see if anyone asked anything. I feel like people have just joined for the journey. It's been really nice to have you all join. If anyone has anything to ask, let me know. Otherwise, I will let you go to the rest of your night. Oh, just a lot of people saying thank you. You are so welcome. I will end it there. Have a great rest of night. We are always available on Instagram DM, email, community, TikTok. Come and find us. If you want to ask questions that are private, we're always willing to give like the financial view. We certainly won't give advice, but we'll kind of tell you what the playbook says. And like, if you come into the community, you can meet other people in the same position as you. So I would encourage you, head into the app, head into the community and chat to others, about your debt-free journey. Have a great night, and I will end the live.